Hello everyone, welcome. My name's Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy Artist, and I'm so glad you're here. And we are going to be painting an abstract painting with acrylic paints today. And let's go ahead and talk about all of our beautiful supplies that we have to get started with. All right, we have our paint. So here we go, just paper plates is great. Simple acrylic paints, or I mentioned in the supply list, we've got tempera paints as well. We'll go ahead and get started with this. This is our foundation plate. This is our mixing plate. Then we have some basic brushes here. So we have, this is my little family of brushes. So I have my mama brush, and then I have little Betty, and then I have little bit. Those are my little brushes, and then I've got some napkins to get them cleaned up, and then also just a little cup of water nearby. Go ahead and give them a bath. And then just a pencil, and then optional is also a permanent marker. So we have all of our tools in place. And then we also have a lot of optional tools too. So you can gather things around the house. The supply list talks about that, and we can have fun with some of those tools as well. All right, so the very first thing that we're going to get started with on our canvas, and I'm working on an 11 by 14 canvas today. So it looks just like this, and this is just a flat panel. So very simple. Even a pizza box works. Any piece of cardboard or heavy cardstock paper works really great too. All right, so I'm going to get started with my pencil here to begin with, and we're just going to get basic line art down on the canvas. So it's going to be, I want you to make sure you let go of all expectations of this trying to be photorealistic. Not at all. This is where we just let loose, have fun with it. And Picasso is definitely my inspiration on this, and so he definitely has intentional distortion, which we really, really like. So it creates a very relaxed state in which to paint, and then also you lose any little reference to it being just like you. You can just let it be very distorted, and sometimes we have really fun little happy accidents that way too. So it's a really fun way to approach it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use my pencil now, and we're going to just start to make some curves. The very first thing I get started with is actually the nose. So I just do a big curve, which almost feels like making a parentheses. So we're going to start just about right here, about this far down. No hard fast rules on that, but about that far down. And so we'll just make this big curve, almost kind of looks like a parentheses. Let's go ahead and reinforce that a little bit. And then let's see if you can, I'm going to pull that forward. Keep that pulled forward actually. And then this is the nose. So normally I work with my permanent marker so that you can always see it in the bright light of the monitor. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that. But I do recommend, especially for beginners, go ahead and stick with your pencil for all of your line work. Again, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the permanent marker. That way you can see it really well. So again, it's this really nice curve that comes all the way down. And then there's a little bit of a curve for my nose. And I'm going to put on my little peepers here. Yay, now I can see a lot better. Okay, all right, so here's my little nose right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring this back in just like that, just a straight line right back in. Then we'll go ahead and come down. Another little diagonal line there. And then this is where we'll do some fun lips. And so in your mind, I know for a lot of females that put on a lot of makeup quite often, they have this down because they have their face memorized. Sometimes if you're not used to putting on makeup, then you're a little bit maybe lost on sometimes what your features look like, but that's okay. So just try to go by memory, and you can I just like to have fun with it. And again, there is very much a distortion that happens with this. We're not trying to make it too exact. You want to have fun with it. So I go ahead and do this up with the diagonal, and then down, and then up, and then down. Almost looks like little mountain tops. Then I do a little straight line all the way across. Then here we go with that parentheses shape again. There's that bottom lip. Okay, then we do like another soft curve. And then we'll go all the way up just like that. So again, a lot of distortion happening here. That's what we want. Just have fun with it. Then we're going to come back up here and do the eyes. So I'm going to start again with that parenthesis shape. So here again, it's like a parenthesis. So by that I just mean just like that curve. And we'll do this again, not quite meeting to that point, but again right there. And then here again, here is a parenthesis, just like that. All right, now we're going to work in the round part of the eye, but I distort the shape again. It looks like I make the letter U. So here we go. So here is a letter U, and then I'm just going to repeat that same stroke. Another U here. Now we're going to do the same thing here on the other side, the letter U, and then again the letter U. So we already have this really fun reference to a face. And I often say that we have a lot of laughter and good times with this class, especially with our group team building. This is where it gets really interesting because we never know what these are going to turn out to look like. So that's part of the fun of it. So relax with it. And even if it doesn't look anything like you, that's part of the point. So it's all supposed to be very, very fun. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and work in this hairline. So up here, let's go ahead and come down to this point there. That will help guide your hand because that's where we ended. So you'll just take a nice curve all the way to this point. And then same thing here. We're just going to connect back to this point there. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this off just like that. And then I want a fun little shape right in through here. And let's go ahead and do one more line just like that. Alright. And then let's do another fun shape right in here. Just a little bit of a distorted half circle. And let's do a fun neck. So I'm just going to do a straight line just like that. And then another straight line just like that. And then make a little curve. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a little hair flip here. So this kind of depends on what your hairstyle is. But if it's short, you can of course make a dramatic line that comes here or even up here. And since my hair is a little bit longer, I'm going to go ahead and do a line all the way down there. And if I want to do, I can do a little curl if I want, or I can just let all this be solid. There's lots of fun options in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a curl. There's a little swirl shape. That's kind of fun and interesting. And then I'm going to go ahead and do another little straight line just like that. And then let's go ahead and have a hair separation here. So I'll go ahead and pull this line down and then all the way down just like that. All right, so we've got really great start, good foundation. Now you can go ahead and start to add in some different shapes too that are a little bit more organic. So let's try a few little fun leaves in here. So I've got a leaf shape again. It's just that parentheses, and then we'll repeat that. It's almost like she's a little tropical girl, has her little flower coming out there. All right, so this is a great start. So now we can go ahead and get started with our painting. Another option too, if you want, if you do have a permanent marker, you can add this reinforced line as well. But if you don't, that's fine too. Leave it just as a pencil and we can go ahead and get started with our painting process. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with my Mama brush. So here is Mama. She is a 1/2-inch Taklon flat brush. Very versatile, easy to use. And let's see here. I am going to get started with the light colors first. So I'm going to give you some instruction on how to paint here. I'm going to take a little bit of some white, add this here. Let's make some turquoise. So I'm going to do... Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take, again, this is Mama brush, 1/2-inch flat Taklon. I'm going to pick up a nice big dollop of the white, put that right there, and then a nice big dollop of my cobalt blue, and then a nice big dollop of my cadmium green. So I'm going to mix all of this together, round and round and round. So we're going for a turquoise. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue to this, work that in. The more green you add, the more it goes to teal. The more blue you add, the more you get more of that true turquoise look. So we're starting to get that. That's a nice look there. So there is our beautiful turquoise color. I'm going to go ahead and kind of squeegee that out of that brush just a little bit. I'm going to work my turquoise into these little sections in here. And of course this is an optional thing. I don't know, some of you may or may not have done this stroke in here. That's up to you. Again, there's a lot of freedom with these different shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and get this initial stroke in here for the color in this section. So I'm just holding the brush just like I would hold a pencil, to where that nice line edge is facing my canvas. So that helps me get a really nice line edge. And then I kind of turn it just a little bit over to the side, parallel to the canvas, to go ahead and get some really nice coverage within that shape. Because initially what you'll discover is when you hold the brush more like a pencil, it will dig into the paint a little bit. You'll get some transparency, so you'll want to come back over the top, turning it again more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. And then that will help give me a really nice opaque finish right over the surface. Then we're going to go ahead and work in this next section here of our turquoise. Of course, when I do Zoom classes with people, then I go ahead and we have a lot of Q&A during this whole process. We can have custom color mixing. So, and there's also a lot more Q&A too on just different features, hair color, hairstyle, all those different things in the beginning with the shape. So it's a really fun class. All right, still making this little line edge. The design I'm working on today, this just gives you a really good idea of the flow of it and how it works just with my particular face shape, since it is in fact a self-portrait with acrylic paint. Alright, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and work this in over using the flat side of the brush parallel to the canvas. Just kind of feather that in, get really nice coverage, very opaque finish there. Alright, beautiful. I'm going to do a fun little circle in here just for fun. So let's talk about technique on the circle. Still using the same mama brush. Again, this is a 1/2 inch flat tack line. Still picking up that turquoise color. I'm going to hold it straight towards the canvas, and I'm going to make a circle. Like a half circle, apply firm pressure. As I do, the bristles spread out, they fan out, and that makes that half circle. Then I'm going to repeat the same stroke on the other side. It meets in the middle, and then there's your fun circle. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and rinse out, so let's talk about that a little bit. It's important to note that with acrylic paint, it does set up and dry pretty quickly on the brush, so you do want to get to it very quickly, or else you will have sticks instead of brushes, so that's no fun. Alright, so let's go ahead and put it into the water and spin it round and round and round, firm pressure here. And keep that going, then we'll pull it out, check it a little bit. There's still a little bit of residual paint, so we need to go back in for another dip here. Again, firm pressure, lots of circular motion. All right, we're getting closer. Stubborn. Okay, awesome, we're all good. All right, so nice and clean. We're gonna take our napkins nearby and let's just go ahead and dry that off. Go ahead and get all that excess water out of there. All right, wonderful. Okay, so you don't want that running down the side of the brush either. So now we're all good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a fun little cheek in here too. Let's get like a pink color, or you could do a nice pop of red. There's lots of options. I'm gonna do just a tiny little touch of white. It'll be fun to do a little bit of color mixing here. So tiny touch of white, we'll mix that with our red. This will give us a really fun pop of like a hot pink color. So really pretty. We're gonna push that back and forth there. All right, now let's go ahead and do another fun circle right here on the cheek. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold it right here. Just pressure towards the canvas. Again, that spin in a half circle, and then another spin in a half circle. Ta-da! There's our fun little cheek. Nice fun shape in there. Alright, now we need to rinse out again. And then we're going to switch over to the beautiful lips. Alright, so put my water down here for just a second, and let's go ahead and use the little bit brush. Alright, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and go back into my turquoise. So loading up, I'm going to go ahead and do a little twist here into the paint. So this will load the brush up, but it will also twist the tip of the brush into a really nice fine point, which makes it easier to have a lot more of that precise control. So we'll go ahead and work this into our lips. And then we're working on more of that opaque finish. Remember to go ahead and turn the brush a little bit more over to the flat side. And we'll work all of this into the full lips here. Alright, you can have a little bit of a highlight here as well. So a little touch of the white, and then we'll go ahead and do a little highlight here just under that line. Again, just having a very gentle hold and just using more of the side of the brush this time. Now I'm going to come in with a little bit of that darker blue to go ahead and accentuate the line. So I'm going to take that darker blue and we're going to push that all the way through the center there. Alright, so that is quite lovely. Still looking at some different light shapes that we can do. So I'm going to come in with the eyes next. So time to give a little bit a bath. So let's go ahead and rinse out. And let's dry off. All good. All right, so let's go ahead and work in our primary yellow. So here we go, primary yellow, little bit brush, and we're just going to do that first U shape. So here we go, we're going to work this in. It kind of looks like a horseshoe a little bit. And even if I have a little bit of an overpaint over the black, that's okay. I can come back in and refine that later, but the main thing is just to go ahead and give yourself a little bit of flexibility to just relax with it, get it into that shape. And I can definitely still see my black line, so it's there for me. So a little bit easy to go ahead and refine that later with the permanent marker, or even a little bit of black paint too, and a little bit brush. Alright, so that's our first layer there. So now I'm going to come in and rinse out. Get all clean again. And dry off. And now we're going to come in with our bright cadmium orange. So again, a little bit of a twist here into the paint. Get a nice layer right there on the tip, and then we'll go ahead and work this into the center. So initially it's more of like a traditional pencil hole just to get it into that small shape. But then if you want to work in more of an opaque finish, again, you kind of turn that brush more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. Alright, beautiful bright eyes. Okay, let's go ahead and rinse out. Okay, now we can do some really fun, like a light lime green would be really pretty. Let's go ahead and use our little buddy brush, 1/4 inch flat tack line brush. And then we will pick up some green and bright primary yellow. See where that takes us. Alright, that's very lovely. So again, green, bright primary yellow. We can get a little bit more of that. I want to make sure I've got plenty of that mix to go around. Alright, and then again, little buddy, here we go. We're going to hold it just like a pencil. We're going to make that parenthesis shape to begin with. And again, you're going to feel that it's going to be a little bit translucent at first, so that, remember to go ahead and turn it over to the side, and that will help you get a more opaque finish right over the top. Just kind of feather that out. Let's go ahead and fill this in. Alright, really beautiful. And I think, let's have a lime green top, shall we? That'll be nice. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and work that in. And there's a lot of area to cover here, and this brush becomes a little bit small. So I'm going to go ahead and give little buddy a rest in the bath water where we don't want him to sit out and let the paint dry on him. So I'm going to come back in with Mama, a little bit more of this bright primary yellow and our green. And let's go ahead and fill this in. And again, I'm remembering to hold that brush a little bit more over to the side. That gives me a more gentle hold. Lovely. Okay, let's go ahead and rinse out. Okay, and again, we're starting with all the lights first. So I'm going to keep my Mama. I just cleaned her off. I just dried her off. So now I'm going to come in with, let's grab a little bit of this yellow and my orange. Let's mix those two together. And then I'm going to work this in on the side here. Working with all of our lights first really helps preserve those light colors. I know I'll be coming in with black as a final touch. If I start too early with the black, then it can muddy up a lot of my bright colors, so I have to be really careful about that. Now, if you have blonde hair, for example, you could be getting started with blonde hair. So, and as we do this class, with our Zoom classes, and of course, we can have a lot more discussion about hair color and all that fun stuff. And then I give custom color technique and teaching all the different hair color that we have. And remember too, you don't have to be literal with it. You can have any kind of fun color that maybe if you don't have it in real life, then you can have for fun. You can be daring here first. So you could have hot pink or orange, lime green. There's a lot of people who have that hair color nowadays. Either way, if you have it, if you're just dreaming about it, this is a good place to dream. Alright, so I'm still seeing a little bit of line work, brush work. I want to feather that out, so I'm going to go ahead and hold my brush a little bit more over to the side, again parallel to the canvas. That will give me a light hand. That allows me to feather that back in and gives me a nice thicker coat of paint over the top. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and rinse this out. Again, lots of ground motions, ground pressure. Dry off with our towel. Go ahead and get little buddy on here. Still has a lot of green. We are good on little buddy, so I'm going to dry that off, set it over to the side. sure the brush handle is also dry. Now let's go ahead and go back in with some of that beautiful light pink there, or hot pink rather. Let's go ahead and push into that. Again, this is my mama brush, and so we'll go ahead and work this into this top corner. Just provide a nice contrast, especially when it comes right next to this really pretty lime green. That'll look really pretty right next to that. Now we have quite a bit of white pigment in this color mix, so that always helps the paint have much better coverage over the surface area too. So it really covers well. So hold it more, just like a pencil, using that line edge. That will help you come in here and make these more precise lines. And then again, when you have to fill into a larger area, then of course you can turn it back over to the side. Squeeze into this little section right in here. And if you're not comfortable with this larger brush, of course you can always switch over to your little buddy. Let me give you a visual on that. Little buddy. Feather out that little triangle shape, and then we are all good. Let's see here, I'm going to go ahead and rinse this out. And now I think it's really time for me to go ahead and, I was going to do black. You know what, I'm going to do one more section of red before I go to the black. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse out, dry off. Let's go ahead and pull in some of that beautiful red paint. So I do want a little bit of that over, let's see, we're going to go ahead and come into this curl here. Make a little curl with that. It's fun. And if another shape strikes you as you're doing this, or happens by accident, just go with it, because again, it's all abstracted. So I'm going to work in almost what looks like a little bit of like a wave, so a soft curve that comes into that little ball shape. And I am seeing that transparency, so again, it does take or that patient hand, holding it more over to the side. Sometimes it's red, it even takes a second coat, so you have to be patient with it and come back in a second time. But I'm going to go ahead and work this in. Let me show you on a plate here just how dramatic the difference is with red. So if I hold it like a pencil towards the canvas and I push, it's very, very translucent. Now, if I hold it more over to the side, parallel to the canvas, make sure I get enough paint on here. Get a nice dollop of paint on the flat side of the brush. That's very helpful too. Now hold it over to the side, parallel to the canvas. Huge difference. So major, major difference there. This is very translucent. This is very opaque. So how you hold the brush really is a big difference maker in that. Let's place that off to the side. Go ahead and continue to fill this in. Gorgeous. Rinse out, give mama a bath, spin round and round and round. All clean, all good. Whee. All right, here we go. Let's dry off. Okay, so now we're good to go on getting into some of our Mars Black here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the mama brush and go into the black. So again, line work for the edges. Let's go ahead and work that around. Now let me show you something that's fun here too. So leaving it just like that is also a really fun abstract move. You can have a lot of playful freedom with this. Now I'm going to go ahead and I will fill in, but just keep in mind that there's a lot of freedom with the abstract process. And I feel like it's a very emotional process too. Alright, so I'm using again black, the line edge of the canvas. One other thing too I'll tell you is if you're trying to get a thin line, make sure you apply some firm pressure on the edge of that brush. Check it before you go. See, mine is very, very thin, so that will give you a nice thin line to go ahead and work around your edges. A lot of times what happens is that when you go to load up your brush, the bristles will become fat with paint and they'll spread out, and then it's very hard to get a nice thin line. So again, you just have to do a little bit of firm pressure and then get back to that thin edge there, and then that will again help you get back to that thin line to go ahead and work that in. Makes it a lot easier when you're doing these details here. Alright, so I'm going to come in here and work in between. Go on that little section. And if this is a little bit small, you can always switch over to another little brush. So I'm going to give you a good example here. Let's go ahead and pick up our little bit brush, dip into that black. I'm also going to use my pinky here to help stabilize my hand, so it acts like a little bit of a training wheel. So help stabilize my hand while I do those more precise moves. And then once we're done with our smaller sections, then I can go ahead and make sure that I keep this in the water until I get a chance to clean it. And that sound over there is the sound of my sweet puppy Ira. She's always here with me while I do my classes. So we'll do a little curve here. Alright, we are good. I'm going to place a little bit into the water so that it does not dry out. And then we will continue painting into this section. Now, one other thing I'll say about black is that I think sometimes people misjudge it and they think that they can just be a little bit haphazard in how they paint black and that it will just all turn out right. But it does get a lot of reflective light when it dries, so I always tell people to make sure and crisscross the stroke as your final stroke over the top, so that when it does dry, it will reflect the light in a good way, because you'll be able to see all the strokes that you made when it dries. You'll definitely see that. So I'm using this line edge here. So like for example, see how I'm just doing these big long strokes up, and I'll do several of those to go ahead and fill in the space. I don't want to just end that way. I want to go ahead and feather it out with a little bit of random pattern to make it a little bit more textural so that it's much prettier when it dries. And then a lot of this we'll just use, the white of the canvas will actually be just our white that we'll leave just as is. That actually works very well for this process. And of course, if you do want to come back in and paint white over that surface area, you are more than welcome to do so. I would just recommend doing that little crisscross stroke parallel to the canvas to go ahead and fill that in, just right over the top. I've got different brush strokes happening, so I'm going to crisscross that back and forth to get a nice texture. I'm going to make another line here. direction, just back and forth. Alright, then we'll go ahead and do a little bit of cutting work around these little shapes in here. Fill that in. You could also have sections of white in here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and leave some of this. See, that makes a fun little white section in there. Basically just trying to get all the broad strokes down first, and I will come back in and make it a bit more textural, fill in any peekaboo with that white canvas peeking through that black paint. Just a little bit more of that crisscross, back and forth, get that nice texture. In around the shape here. And I actually got a nice soft blend into that red. That was a nice look. So that's always lovely when that happens. Still a little wet, and that worked for us. That last little bit of detail. And just a little bit of that crisscross. Other fun things you can do to add texture are you can take the end of the brush or your pencil, let's dip it into a little bit of white, and you can make like a little polka dot. Make that go all the way around. So that's another fun way to make a pattern. Twist every time I'm done. That's very fun. Cute, cute. Okay, we'll go ahead and wipe that off. And then of course, I need to go ahead and rinse out. Alright. Now, a couple of different options on finishing touches here. So if you're a little worried about a shaky hand and coming back in to reinforce your black line work, you can let this all completely set up and dry and use a permanent marker to go ahead and finish that out. Or, oh, and one other thing that's really important about that, the reason why you have to wait is because if your permanent marker hits wet paint, it will just destroy your permanent marker immediately as soon as it hits wet paint. So that you have to be really careful with that. Or you can just come back in with a little bit and black paint, and we can go ahead and work on details this way. So let's take a little bit, it's all clean. I'm going to go ahead and do that little twist into the black paint here. And then see, I can start to work on my little details. And I'm also doing a little bit of a press with my pinky. Just make sure you put your pinky down into a dry spot. That will help stabilize your hand. And so I can rework. And if you're working on a flat surface, then you can add a little bit of water to this, and that will make that paint a lot more fluid and easier to manipulate as well. I'm avoiding the water a little bit now since my painting's in more of like a vertical state. That could create a water run, so I'm going to be careful with that. Just a fine little reinforcement there. Again, do a little bit of a twist into the paint to get a nice fine point. And then this is all dry here, so I'm going to go ahead and place my pinky there. And I can be very delicate, but I can reinforce that black line just a little bit. But again, a lot of people feel like the permanent marker is the way to go on this. It's just a lot easier to make this really delicate line right here. So just work this in. And we were pretty tidy over here, so I'm going to go ahead and just barely work this in here. Little tiny touches of that. Reinforcing that a little bit. All right, and let's do a little line across the shirt here. Awesome. Okay, so ending up, we'll make sure all of our brushes are in water, and we can rinse all those off and clean them up. And then we can go ahead and sign our masterpiece too. So that is the last step here. So I need my little bit brush. And a contrasting color will work. You can do black, or I might even come in with a little bit of red on this. So I'm going to do a little bit of a twist. And sometimes even initials just work too if you don't want to do a full signature. So today, this is a tight spot, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a little initial. Here's my little initial. Very fun. Okay, awesome. All right, so again, this is our abstract self-portrait, very much like Picasso. It's definitely our inspiration for this. So we've learned a lot from him today, and we've had a great time. And everyone's will look very different and very unique, and maybe nothing like the real you, but that's okay. It's all about just having that flexibility, creativity, learning some different strokes, how to let go, and maybe even be a fantasy person. Be the fantasy version of yourself. So very fun team building activity, or just for one person on your own. And again, great time had by all. Thank you so much for joining me today, and y'all have a very blessed day. Love y'all. See you soon. Toodles.